So in this whiteboard, we're going to talk about the derivation of the attack on the Death Star. So the Empire basically built this big fortress, right? The Death Star. We're all familiar with it. There it is. Defending it were these little teeny fighters, the TIE fighters. The interesting thing about TIE fighters is they were highly maneuverable, but they didn't have shields. So while they could turn a lot, if they got hit, they were in trouble. But there were lots of them, so they figured, hey, volume. It's all about volume. But here's what happened. As they were hanging out, protecting themselves, who shows up? But of course, the rebels in X-Wing fighters. So here we go with our tail and our X-Wing. So they all came flying in. Well, they had much stronger shields. So that made them much harder to shoot down as compared to the TIE fighters. So as the TIE fighters were doing their thing and they were fighting, what the rebels realized that sadly the Empire did not was that there was a flaw, the trench. So what happened was there was that trench, and in there was the intake for the reactor for the Death Star. Looked kind of like this, right? It's a big square with a circle. Here's our reactor intake. So our hero, Luke Skywalker, he flew his X-Wing into the trench, down the trench, and then launched his weapon into the reactor. When it went in, it went down the exhaust, it went all the way into the reactor at the center of the Death Star, and boom, no more Death Star. And that's the end of the Death Star. What lessons can we learn? Well, the first and most obvious one is watch out for that trench. Let's not keep creating these major weaknesses in our huge space stations. Sadly, this is a lesson that the Empire never seems to absorb, as we see it in virtually every movie where the Death Star happens. From a broader standpoint, we need to make sure that as we modify and improve our product, that we're not leaving these openings, that we're testing and thinking about where the weaknesses might lie, and make sure that we think about where the rebels might attack, or maybe today, where the hackers might attack, and make sure we've got all the different angles covered. Thanks.